Should Jerry Jones just offer Dan Quinn the Cowboys head job to keep him around?
Skip, I think if he were to do that, Skip, that would just be a very knee-jerk reactionary move. If that's the case, Green Bay should fire their head coach. They lost. They were the number one seed. No one thought they were going to lose. Skip, I didn't second-guess this. I said, Skip, I don't think he's the right guy for the job. I think we're overvaluing him as a head coach, considering he's had, for two guys, that's won 7 MVPs between the two of them. Green Bay Packers have had basically 30 years of exemplary quarterback play and only have 2 Super Bowls. That's another story. I'm sure we're going to debate that at some point in time, too, in the very near future. Skip, if he were to fire him, Jerry Jones would be admitting a mistake. Jerry does not strike me as a guy that likes to admit he's made a mistake. And if he were to fire, if I'm Dan Quinn, do I really want this job? Because tell me exactly what my job is as a head coach. Stand on the sideline. I got no say in the final 53. I got no say in free agency. I got no say in the draft. I just happen to be the coach of the Dallas Cowboys. I'm not going to get any credit when we win, because what did Jerry say? Jerry's going to say, we got all this great talent. We should have more to show for it. So you didn't help accumulate any of the talent. The only thing you're going to get credit for is losses. Just like Mike McCarthy. Skip Bayless has been telling me since he's been there, we're going to win in spite of him. Okay, you win, and you was winning in spite of him until you didn't win. Now it was because of him that you lost, when you've been winning in spite of him beforehand. So when I look at it, Skip, should Jerry do it? I think it would be very reactionary. But if I'm Dan Quinn, do I really want this job? I want to go somewhere I'm going to get some credit. Because I'm not going to get any credit, because Jerry's going to take all the credit. Jerry's going to take all my shine. Kyle Shanahan gets the credit for the success. You think if Dan Quinn takes over the Dallas Cowboys, is he going to get the credit that Zach Taylor gets from Cincinnati? Absolutely not. Because Jerry Jones wants all the credit. I'm saying 70% chance that he doesn't fire Mike McCarthy. I believe Dan Quinn is going to have this choice of about 3 or 4 jobs. The going rate for a head coach is what, Skip, $6-7 million? I don't believe Jerry's going to pay him that. Say, don't take this job. You'll be, and if things don't work out for us next year, you'll be next in line. You'll be able to succeed Mike McCarthy. I don't believe you pay him an assistant $6-7 million, and you're only paying the head coach $5-6 million. I don't believe you give an assistant. You could. I mean, it's Jerry's money. It doesn't go against the cap, so
does not.
He could pay him $10 million and keep it. But I don't believe it's going to happen, Skip. I do believe Jerry Jones is very upset, considering this is the first time that he's believed he had a Super Bowl caliber defense. He's always felt he had that on offense because of the talent that level they had. This year, the defense was flying around, and Jerry like, well, hell, we were bad under Mike Nolan. We ain't got anything to show for it. We were great under Dan Quinn, and we still ain't got anything to show for it. So who's at fault? We got to blame Skip. We got to blame somebody now. We can't give the 49ers credit. I'm sorry, Mike, you and Jerry Jones crosshairs. I'm going to say there's a 30% chance that he fires him. Only 30.
I don't care what the percentage chance is.
You want 100%.
It should be 105%, because I have seen enough. I have admitted to you, in my career, I have never been more fooled by the hiring of a head coach than I was by Mike McCarthy. Please drop the Mike McCarthy and get out of our way, because he has flat out gotten exposed over 2 years, not just one, but over 2. I got fooled, and I give you this, because of Brett Favre and because of Aaron Rodgers, but I shouldn't have gotten fooled by what happened his last 3 years in Green Bay, because you want to talk about falling off the cliff. Aaron was falling, and he took Mike with him. His stats were declining. He was beat up. He was hurt. He had this injury and that injury. And Mike went right with him, because they didn't even sniff 500 over those last 3 years.
Correct.
It was pathetic. It was disastrous. He needed to go. He did go. But he shined that Super Bowl ring in Jerry's eyes one long night at Jerry's mansion over beer and nachos into the wee hours, until Jerry Jr. said, Dad, what are you waiting for?
He won that ring in Jerry's building, too.
He won it in Jerry's building. He did. Long ago, far away, Super Bowl. Don't get me started on what happened in that Super Bowl. But the point was, I thought he was, as I told you, a made man. And yet he had been made by Brett Favre, and he had been made by Aaron Rodgers. Period. End of story. There is no there when it comes to Mike McCarthy. He is literally a bump on a sideline log. He comes across as a bystander, as a spectator, just looking around, looking up at the Jumbotron, saying, oh, that happened. He's overmatched. He's overwhelmed by the aura of Jerry world and having to make decisions on the fly.
It's the Cowboys.
It's the Dallas Cowboys. And he's in charge, and he can't live up to it. He just gets flat out overwhelmed to the point he chokes. He goes blind in any sort of clock management situation. He is all about clock mismanagement. And yet, all you need to know about this year was they have a lot of talent. They entered the year #1 on offense in points scored and yards gained. Their defense, as even Mike said, I gave him one comment all year that rang true to me. Never seen one side of the ball flipped the way we flipped our defense in the offseason. Well, Dan Quinn had a lot to do with that. And I am not here to suggest that Dan Quinn is salvation, nirvana,
He's
the
not
answer.
Lombardi.
He's not Eureka. I'm not saying that. All I know is that in Atlanta, he was pretty great, at least for a while.
Yeah.
And he got that team to a 28-3 lead over Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, and you know the rest of the story. Was he all at fault? Was Kyle Shanahan, his coordinator and play caller, somewhat at fault? Sure he was. And it finally went completely south, and when they started 0-5, he got fired. I get that. But he did good to great things for the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah.
He is a made man in that we know he can head coach a football team, and he was looked at as a charismatic, dynamic leader. And the one game I got to see him operate on the sidelines this year was at New Orleans when, unfortunately for Mike McCarthy, he got COVID. He wound up in a hotel in Frisco, Texas, watching his Cowboys play at New Orleans. Dan Quinn with cap on backwards. I'm not sure Jerry would go for that in the long term. On the sideline, acting just the way he acts up in the press box when he's the defensive coordinator as the head coach. He's butt slapping, he's hugging. He's bringing energy and life to a sideline that was often lifeless. So what happened to my team just on sheer firepower, star power? It leaped out to 6-1, and it finished 6-5 down the stretch over the last 11 games. And worse, against your Denver Broncos, when I least expected it, they fell behind 30-0 early in the fourth quarter. And then against the Raiders on the Thanksgiving stage, they fell behind 24-13 mid-third quarter and lost in overtime, as you know. And they won the toss and lost in overtime.
Right.
Against Arizona, they fell behind 22-7 early in the fourth quarter. And then in the playoff game against San Francisco, they fell behind 23-7 early in the fourth quarter.
Right.
It was lifeless. It was uninspired. It was Mike McCarthy failing again and again to get his team ready to play football because he has no motivation in his DNA at all. I used to hear back in the day, all the way back to Brett Favre days, that he was one of the better play callers in the league. And then he comes to Dallas, and obviously Kellen Moore attached at the hip with Dak. Okay, I'm fine with that. Mike couldn't even call plays.
Right.
So what does he do? Well, he does next to nothing.
Right.
And then he started taking credit for these motivational ploys like monkey butt powder that embarrassed me as a lifelong Cowboy fan.
Right.
Monkey butt powder. And then a year ago up in Minneapolis, we flew in watermelons so that I could have my team leaders take sledgehammers to watermelons up in the meeting room the night before at the hotel.
I'm sure they had to clean up that mess.
It was reported it was a huge mess. Okay? And yet he took credit for that victory of Andy Dalton winning at Minnesota. And this year Cooper Kupp won at Minnesota. Okay, so what? Not Cooper Kupp, Cooper Rush.
Cooper Rush.
I got Cooper Kupp in my psyche right now because he ruined me. But the point is, I have seen enough of Mike McCarthy, and I believe Jerry Jones has seen enough. That's why in his big 25-minute salvo on his radio show 2 days ago, he would not bless him. He would not vote of confidence, Mike McCarthy. He would barely even bring up his name because, as Jerry said after the game, I am surprised and I am sick over what I just saw. And I believe he still is sick over what he just saw. Is Dan Quinn his type of guy? No, he's not, because he's a little too loose and cool. He's a little too hip and slick for Jerry. It's not, I don't know. Plus, he's more of an arm's length guy. He's not going to get close to Jerry. I don't think he's going to be a beer and nachos guy with Jerry. Right. But again, would I take right now Dan Quinn over Mike McCarthy? You better believe it. In a heartbeat, I would.
You know what, Skip Bayless? You the fault. You the reason that Mike McCarthy might lose his job because you and guys that Jerry Jones valued their opinion convinced him this was the Cowboys' year. Guys that played for Jerry Jones, guys that he valued, from the Jimmy Johnson who just went to the Hall of Fame, he said this is the Cowboys' year. This team reminds me a lot of those 90 teams that was a dynasty. Well, you said that too. Y'all convinced Jerry this was the year.
And our man Troy Aikman.
Yeah, y'all convinced him. And Jerry like, ooh, you heard with Troy, you heard with Jimmy, you heard with Skip Bayless saying they are diehard. They know these Cowboys. They've covered the Cowboys. They played for the Cowboys. They've coached the Cowboys. And they said, this is our year. Ooh, this is our year. Now, you got 35 reporters around you like, well, Jerry, what's going through your mind now after losing a game to the 49ers? And now he has to, I'm disappointed. I'm upset. When you have the collection of talent that we have, you expect better results.
You do. So all of a sudden, as we speak, who is the single hottest candidate on the head coaching market? It is. It's DQ. And I'm not meaning Dairy Queen. I'm meaning Dan Quinn.
Yeah, it is.
He's interviewed at Chicago and Minnesota and your Denver Broncos.
One of the finalists for the Broncos.
Miami, and he's had second interviews, and he's hot, hot, hot.
Right.
Okay, you got me again on another point you made. It's highly possible he would look at the Broncos or the Dolphins maybe and just say, you know what, that's just a better job than this Dallas job because I don't have to deal with Jerry.
Right.
And I thought Tim Calishaw made an excellent point in a piece he wrote yesterday in the Dallas Morning News. I've known Tim forever. But his point was that there are 31 other GMs and personnel directors in this league who have to compete for their jobs with their jobs on the line every single year, except for one franchise, the Jones Boys, as Tim called them.
Right.
The Jones Boys don't have any pressure because they own and they operate.
Yeah.
So if it blows up right before your very eyes, are they going to lose their jobs? No. So every other team in this league, all 31, have a GM whose butt is on the line every single year.
Yes.
What did you do or what did you not do? Should I or should I not? Should I keep you or should I not?
Right.
Well, there's never that question asked in only one place, in Dallas, Texas.
Correct.
So in the end, Dan Quinn probably saying, well, give me the Broncos. I'll take the Broncos. Again, the reason Dan Quinn's going to have a hard time deciding is what's Aaron Rodgers going to do? We're about to talk about him, right? Okay, where's he going to go? Is he going to wind up a Bronco? I'll take that job. He would take that in a heartbeat over the Dallas job, I believe.
Quarterback is everything.
Okay. And yet, who's going to be? Is Deshaun going to wind up in Miami or not? It sounds like not. Okay, is he going to go somewhere else? Maybe I should take that job. Okay, so he's the hottest candidate, and yet the only way to keep him in Dallas would be to offer him McCarthy's job.
Correct. That is it. Because I don't see a scenario, Skip. Skip, you know, like a lot of times in college, you're like, okay, we got the guy in waiting, in succession. So we're going to keep this guy on. We're going to play him a king's ransom. And when such and such retires, you will step to the forefront. You see Coach K is stepping down. He got the name his successor.
He did.
Roy Williams stepped down in Carolina. He kind of got the name his successor.
He did.
And so in this situation, I'm going to pay you 50% what the going rate is for DC or OC, and we're going to give Mike McCarthy one more year. He doesn't get it done, but Dan Quinn says, okay, but if he gets it done, then what? Jobs might not be available, especially the quality of jobs. Skip, there's some quality jobs out there now. I mean, we understand that Jacksonville's out there and Byron Leftwich is going in for a second interview. I think he'll be a great candidate for that job. He was a quarterback. He was a quarterback there.
He was.
He did a great job with Tom Brady. Everybody going to say, well, he had Tom Brady. Okay, fine, but Bill O'Brien didn't win the Super Bowl with Tom Brady, and he got a head coaching job. So for me, Skip, I just look at it like it would be very reactionary if Jerry were to fire Mike McCarthy because I want you to take some culpability in this now because you convinced him. You do. You convinced him because how about you told me they were jinx proof. This is our year. We're gonna do this. But Skip, what if you got to show? Skip, that was a bad division. You won a bad division. There's some stock into that. Look how fast you went out. Look how fast the Eagles went out. Look at teams that play in quality division. They still around. Look at the 49ers. It's not an accident. The 49ers had one of the toughest divisions in football. It's not an accident. Kansas City's still around. One of the toughest divisions in football. It's not an accident.
Okay, but early on, we did win at the Chargers, and we won at Belichick, and I'm going to put those in my bank. I saw it with my own 2 eyes. That worked, and that worked.
Yeah, but you had 6 games against teams that were terrible, and you know it, Skip.
I don't think Philadelphia's terrible.
They're okay.
Okay, that leaves us just one other possibility, one other escape hatch route, and that would be Sean Payton, who is now very unhappy in New Orleans, but probably unhappy just because he's burned out and probably needs some time away from football.
Right.
So would he wouldn't be available because he can't just walk away. You would have to propose a trade for Sean Payton. Now we're back to the same catch-22 here.
Oh, now you know Sean Payton, he 1,000 trillion% his own guy. You're going to give Sean Payton some control, a lot of it.
You would have to hand him the keys to the kingdom.
Yeah.
You would have to say, you run it, you pick the talent, I'm going to semi-retire back here in the shadows. I just don't think Jerry would ever do it.
Because who is his mentor? Where did he learn everything from? Bill Parcells.
Yep.
Bill Parcells ain't go nowhere without control. And so Sean Payton, you think you're going to just get Sean Payton and says, okay, Sean, you the head coach of the Cowboys. You got no say on the final 53 in free agency or the draft. Sean Payton is like, man, you better get out.
Well, Sean was there. He knows what it's like.
Exactly.
Yep, I don't see it. Plus, you'd have to trade for him, and you'd have to trade a first-round pick or more. I don't know.
Well, hold on. What about Kellen Moore? You don't get Kellen Moore the job? I thought you liked Kellen Moore.
As a head coach?
Head coach.
I do not. And my pet peeve in your league is that constantly I see coordinators elevated who have nothing to do with being a head coach. And all of a sudden, Kellen Moore's the head coach?
You got to be able to delegate.
Yeah.
You got to be able to delegate. That's the biggest thing.
I'm sorry.
I don't know. Boy, he could be on the move, though, somewhere else.
Thank you for watching. You can subscribe here to get the latest from the show, and be sure to check out more of the best clips from Undisputed, or go watch a few other segments from our other shows on FS1.